Hi there, and welcome to the Growth Execution Podcast. Here we talk to entrepreneurs from around the world about their launch journeys, with a view to helping you as a growth leader to launch and grow your own. Delighted to be joined this week by Simon Dell of Cemoh. Simon, hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thank you. Very well. Now listen, I wanted to find out first of all, if you take yourself back to when you did start your business, what were the real kind of drivers behind it? Why did you end up starting Cemoh?
I think I just got sick of working for someone else. It took a while, but there was a sort of a long journey, a long realization that I wanted to do my own thing, and I wanted to work for myself. And it was probably not so much that I wanted to work for myself. I just realized I realized I didn't want to work for other people, which I think are two different things. So yeah, I was working a full-time job, a marketing role, and yeah, there was a couple of moments when that I look back on it now and go, yeah, those were kind of the intrinsic moments where I went, that sort of set me off in that direction. One was reading a book on a plane flying back from America to Australia. The book was called Punk Marketing, by a guy called Richard Lamar. Still available and still in print at the moment. And I read it and just went, this is what I want to do. This is what I believe in. This is fantastic. He kind of just distilled marketing down into some really, really great lessons. And the other one was I had a review at work and it wasn't very good. And I kind of went, and I never forget the guy called Andrew Jones, who was also interestingly an English guy in Australia, and he'd said to me after the review, he'd gone, obviously you've got some, describe them as challenges,
Very kind of him.
which is a nice polite word, and he said, look, we can work on those if you want to, and then he kind of just repeated the bits if you want to, and I kind of went, this is me. There's rough edges here, and I don't know. I kind of got to that moment. It was I quite like them. I thought, and now I look back on them, I think those rough edges are actually quite they're a feature. Feature and advantage and benefit. They're not a bug. Yeah. It's just how you use those rough edges and where you apply them to in your life that. So yeah, I kind of realized at that point it was time to perhaps start looking at doing something myself. So
wow. So that kind of coming together of the sort of the spark from the book and then the actual situation that you found yourself in, that then kind of drove you to, and were you thinking about, kind of building a big business? Were you thinking about, kind of being a one-man band? What was your sort of vision of where you're going to go?
The first attempt was, I didn't really have a vision, and I've mentioned this a couple of times in my own podcast. And when I talk about, I've interviewed and met a lot of entrepreneurs who've all had a vision. Like there's one in particular, a guy I know who's had 10-year plans, and he's on to his third one now. Wow. And I kind of, and I would say this to all entrepreneurs: is don't panic that you don't have a 10-year plan, or don't panic that you don't necessarily have a 1-year plan. Some of the best business people that I've met don't know what they're doing that day when they get out of bed in the morning. And I didn't really have a plan. There was a desire to build an agency, but I spent the first year just working on my own as a consultant, really badly, which is just terrible. My story, my background and my story is that success is a list of things not to do. But yeah, I did that. I did that for a year.
We'll pick a little bit of those. That's okay.
But yeah, I never really had a plan, and it was probably until I would say January, February of this year when I and my current business partner had that light bulb moment where we were like, that's it. That's what we should be doing. But until then, I would say, and I'm 46 years old now, I'm 46 in April. So I was 45 years old. And I would say at 45, I probably still had no real clear direction as to what I was doing, other than I wanted to work for myself and run a business, and I know it's going to sound horrible, but help people. That was the sort of, but that was what was behind it all.
Yeah, listen, I like you speak to entrepreneurs all the time. That is not unusual. That is, the kind of almost the driver, and particularly if it's a driver that's, in some ways more negative than positive. If it is to get away from something, and we've all done it, and I'm in exactly the same place where I wanted to get away from a corporate world, and where I didn't feel that I necessarily fitted a particular hole that was laid out. But yeah, and I think that loads of entrepreneurs out there listening to this as well, if you don't know necessarily what you're going to do, start and you kind of figure out along the way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for I think you're spot on there. Go for the right reasons. Go because don't go for the negative reasons that you want to get away from someone or somewhere or that kind of thing. Do it for the positive reasons that you enjoy what you're doing. You think you can, make a difference. You can do something better. You can improve on something. Those are the reasons for going out and doing it yourself.
Yeah. And I think a lot of those reasons will kind of be there almost always, or certainly they will crystallize perhaps early on. And it's perhaps just that negative moment where you realize, you look around at your world, you think this isn't right. And that's just more the kind of platform to jump off than necessarily the real driver for it. And obviously you're over in Australia now. How did that come about? What changed for you over there?
I met an Australian girl in London. I was working in London in a restaurant group in Covent Garden, and I met an Australian girl in a nightclub, as you do with Australian girls.
Yes, you do.
We started going out. We came back to Australia for a holiday, and as an Englishman walking into Australia, just like, oh my God, this is 1,000 times better than living in London. The weather's better. The people are so much more relaxed. And I was doing a job where I was at that time spending a lot of time on the road, driving around the M25. And again, I never fit. This was one defining moment. I was doing a sales job out for a beer company, and we'll talk about sales in a minute, because I think that's one of the cornerstones of how I've potentially achieved success in the past is the sales training. But for those people that know London, and you're lucky enough not to have to drive around it every day, I was on the north side of London. I lived on the south side in a place called near Lewisham, for people who might not know all of southeast London. And I was trying to get on from the north side of the Thames in the Docklands back to Lewisham, and there'd been an accident on Tower Bridge, London. I think London Bridge is the next one. The Rotherhithe Tunnel had got blocked, and somebody had crashed on another one of the tunnel. There was literally, for what was Blackwall Tunnel, for what was 5 options of getting across the river, there was one open, and this was on a winter's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was just completely stuck. You just couldn't drive anywhere. And what I think was a 7-mile journey took me 4.5 hours.
Wow.
And after that, I just went, fuck this. This is
I've got to find another way.
And I think I either got back from Australia or I was due to go to Australia. And I think after that, I just went, this is not what, this is not my future, is driving around London in a car, getting stuck in traffic. So
so they made the big move.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you whether you regret it, because I think you kind of indicated that already.
I'll be honest. I regret the fact that I'm so far away from my family. I have 2 young boys, 4.5 and 2, and my parents are still in the UK, in Tunbridge Wells. Obviously it's really hard for them to come and see us and us to go and see them at any time, but obviously in COVID it's impossible. That's hard. So if people are going to make that transition from one country to another for whatever reason, they have to be prepared that family is something that to a degree you leave behind.
Sure. And I wonder, and just kind of on a personal level, whether the kind of how much more familiar everybody is with doing this sort of stuff, right? So, you could be literally in the next room, in this room with me. Has that helped to maintain or even improve those relationships? And perhaps as you look to the future and you think in 2 years' time when this is all done, actually there might be a kind of an increased ability to be able to connect and to continue that.
Yeah, I mean, we talk to them every other day, and FaceTime and all those kind of things. And I think one thing COVID has done is allow people to sort of go, yeah, you know what? I don't need to drive half an hour to see this person for a pointless meeting. I can just jump on Zoom and we can get this over and done with. And it's, we can still have the same conversation. We can still talk about the same things, and we've all saved everyone else's time. So I think there is a positive that has come out of this, is that everyone is much more accepting of this as a conversation medium.
Yeah. And thinking back to the launch time, and as you say, you kind of came through a few iterations along the way. What made those transitions? What were the things that you came up against, and why did you solve them in that way?
Do you mean what the business was trying to solve, or personal challenges that we had?
So you as the kind of driver of the business, I'm sure there was a combination of.
Yeah, look, I mean, like any business, I think probably the biggest challenge we've had, whether I was on because there's been kind of 3 iterations. There's been me as a consultant out on my own, which was poorly done. There was me running an agency for about 6-7 years, which was poorly done.
6-7 years sounds like it can't be poorly done.
It does, yeah. And then there's me in this iteration as it is at the moment, which has been about 2.5 years. The first 2 years we were probably I would say testing a business model. Yeah. And the last 6 months we've really been going, right now is like you would say, we have the product, we have marketing, we sales, with everything ticking all the boxes. I think the biggest challenge for any business is sales. And this will have this, we have this conversation now, I'll leave it till later, but I think every business really, really struggles with sales. To a degree, product and marketing, you can pretty much kludge your way through. You can watch some YouTube videos, you can read some books and all those kind of things, and you can get a handle on product and marketing. You might not do it as well as you should be doing it, but you can get your handle on it. Sales is something that I don't think you can fake.
Listen, I completely agree. And what I want to do is just absolutely go into that right now. So I agree with you. I think that the product side of things, generally entrepreneurs come with a belief or an idea, and they want to do it, and therefore they will find that way, as you say, kludge their way through to find some facsimile of where they want it to go to. With the marketing side, generally there's a kind of creativity that you can almost kind of blag it a little bit. You've got something out there and you're talking about something you're passionate about. So that kind of solves itself to an extent. But sales, talk me through what you've observed about the kind of sales side.
I think sales, a lot of entrepreneurs I've met almost lack confidence, or they don't know how to go and find customers, or they're doing some marketing, and the marketing is bringing in customers, but they might struggle to learn how to close a deal, or convert a lead into a sale, or they don't do it quickly enough, or when they finally get in front of a customer, they don't know how to upsell. They just there's a lot of things that I don't think you can fake. There's a lot of things I don't think you can fake in sales. I think confidence is the main one. There's a good example. I had a client. Actually, no, it's a long story, but it's a guy I know. I'm not going to go into the background because we'll be here another half an hour with that. But he created an app. He created an app that was designed for cafes, fitness places, small retailers. It was one of these loyalty-driven apps, of which there are thousands out there, and there's lots of them out there. And he created this, and I sort of known him and worked with him for about 9 months to a year. And at the end of the year, he still didn't have a significant base of customers. And he had the product right, because it was, there was a lot of other people doing it. It was, he could have, it was fairly straightforward. He had the marketing right, the website was there, the branding and all those kind of things, and et cetera, et cetera. What he really needed to do was just get on the road and knock on doors and start talking to people. And what frustrated me is I kind of said to him, like, what have you been doing for a year? You're the CEO. You've got a team of 3. And when you're a team of 3 as the CEO, you've got to go knock on doors. You know, you've got to assume the CTO can build the products and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, your responsibility is to knock on doors. And people are scared of that. People are scared of rejection. You know, I think, maybe it was you said it to me the other day about, you know, people having their baby rejected. They can't deal with that.
It's ugly.
It's exactly, you know, that's, and I think that's a barrier for a lot of people, is that sales side of things, converting sales, making the initial contact. That's where I think I see a lot of businesses fall down.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is almost that visceral kind of, look, I've spent this long dreaming about it, building it, talking about it, and now it's here. And the last thing I want to hear is anybody telling me that it's rubbish. And that's such a big kind of emotional barrier. But you've got to think really, really clearly and really, really business-like about it, because if you're going to do justice to what you've built in product and what you have created in marketing, you've got to sell. You've got to get over that and get over yourself.
And that is, yes, if you can mentally get to the point where you go, I'm going to talk to 20 people about this product and 19 of them are going to hate it and one of them's going to love it.
Yeah.
At that point you go, I've got a business here. And I remember a friend of mine who used to sell fold down beds, you know, like the fold away beds that go into
studio apartments and stuff.
He used to do that in shopping centers. And he said to me, I'll never forget him saying this, because he'd worked it out. He goes, he was paid commission only job, and he got paid the commission based on the actual successful order. Okay. And they knew they'd done this for a long enough time, that 1 in 2 people where they went and did a measurement, 1 in 2 converted to a sale, and the sale was £3,000 or whatever it was, and then he was paid a commission on that. He worked out after the first week of being in this sales job that for every 20 people he spoke to, 19 of them, and he was stopping people as they're walking past, you know, the kind of thing where you're standing in the middle of a shopping center trying to get people interested. Yes. He knew that for 20 people that he interrupted, he'd get 1 booking. Yes. And that booking, 50% of them would convert into a sale. That would mean this average sale. And he knew that he had to stop he still had to stop 100 people a day. Yeah. And he would get 5 bookings, 2.5 of them would turn into it. And that was how he knew he made his money.
Yeah.
And that's simple as that. And I would say all businesses are relatively simple as that. But from the sales perspective, you've got to get over the fact that 19 people are going to tell you to go away.
Absolutely. And it's almost, you've got to, and it's almost a mindset shift where you've got to really almost go out to that, walk into that fight, right? You've got to go and say, right, I want to meet those 19 because I've got to get as quickly as possible to the 20th.
To the 20th person.
I've got to do it really quick. So actually, you're almost kind of churning through these no's and letting them roll off your back. And then there's a great little kind of acronym that I tend to use, which is LAPS, LAPS. So it's leads, appointments, presentations, and then sales. All right. And it works very well, obviously, in B2B. It can work also in B2C. But you've got to know in that funnel how many leads you pour in the top to get your sales out the bottom, and at what stage along the way it all changes. And like you, I think it's such an important part of business that is so undervalued and underused because there's this emotional barrier to it.
And we know now here in this business that we know if we get in front of a client, we are at probably about an 80% conversion rate. And that's so high because we've generally done the pre-sale to get us in there. So they already know why we're there. They already know what conversation we're going to have. But we're about 80% there. And for us, it's now building that sales. If we ring 20 people, how many appointments can we get?
Exactly that. And so, that I think
it's all numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And so your job really is to go for the leads. Is to start the funnel, and that's where everything, the products and the marketing will come in. But for you, and thinking about the sort of the marketing side, how much heavy lifting does marketing have to do? You know, and, you know, do you find that actually putting effort into the marketing side is far more streamlined? It narrows down the numbers of that you need to actually go and approach.
It probably, I would say, from our perspective in what we do, the marketing improves the conversion rate rather than improves the numbers of leads. It's when people come to look at who we are and they look at the website and they see the podcast, they see the content and all those kind of things. They go, right, these people are serious. They know what they're doing. And then they're much more likely to contact us.
Yes.
I find the marketing as being good for, you know, you get what we call lurkers, and you get them in all industry, that you get people that follow you, that know what you're doing, that read all your content, listen to your podcast, but you don't know that they're there.
Yeah.
And then from out of nowhere, and I've got a guy coming in next week that I did a coaching thing with. He was on a panel with me probably about a year and a half ago. Not heard a peep from him, but he's clearly been lurking there in the background, seeing our marketing, seeing our content. So if you can build that awareness through sales at the top, you know, then I think for us, certainly marketing works as a reinforcement about our authority and our skill set and our knowledge, which makes them much more likely to then send us an email or you know, or pick up the phone and call us.
Sure. And I guess kind of in the world that we are, and I'm mindful obviously that Australia's at a different stage than we are here in the UK. How much is trust? How much is actually creating that kind of consistency and believability that what you say is what you are?
Yeah, I sort of present a classic marketing sales funnel whenever I talk to clients. I've pulled ideas from sales funnels, and you know, most people have seen a standard sales funnel.
Yeah.
And we have it in 4 steps. So you know, the first step is about actually people discovering who you are. The second step is about engagement, is then once they've discovered who you are, they need to then engage with you. The third step to me is always about trust. And I say to people, that's where it comes in. You don't necessarily have to build trust at the top of the funnel or the second stage of the funnel, but when they're getting to the point when they've looked at your website, they've maybe sent you an inquiry, they've looked at your social media and all those kind of things. Now they want to go, now I want to trust this company. Mm-hmm. And that is often where I say to people, that's where a human comes in, because you can do all these things in marketing, you can produce podcasts and blogs and all this stuff, but really when they talk to Mal, the trust element goes from here to here, you know, once they've actually had that face-to-face conversation. So for us, building that trust is super important, but it's often a face-to-face thing. It's a, you know, eyeballs in front of somebody, maybe even a Zoom chat. I mean, yes, Zoom has changed the way we do things, but I sat in a prospect meeting this morning with a guy that I've known for a long time and his 2 new bosses.
Yeah. Would
we have had the same response if I'd done it on Zoom? Maybe not. Yeah. I just think it's, you know, it's one of those things. Getting in front of people is massive. Certainly for us is a trust.
Yeah.
Trust factor.
And people by people in the end, right? You know, whatever this sale, whatever else it is the coming together of 2 people, one who's got something to sell and one who's got something to buy, whether that is off Amazon or whether that is a direct B2B kind of interaction, is the belief that this person somewhere that you may never meet and never even think about as a human has created something that you want to buy, and trust is an absolutely critical piece of that.
And the challenge you've got with businesses that then scale beyond that is that if I go into this meeting this morning and these guys go, yeah, we want to spend money with you, I then have to make sure that they not just trust me, but they trust the organization, because they're not really getting me. They're getting my organization and the people that work for me and the processes that we've put in place and the infrastructure that we have. They're not getting me doing their actual work. They're going to get someone else doing that. So that's one, again, I see something entrepreneurs really fail with. They sell themselves and they don't sell the organization. You know, and it's very easy to sell yourself as an entrepreneur because you're great and you think you're great and you're, you know, and all those kind of things.
The passion is there and everything the ideas are flowing. But as you say,
you've got to get to the point where you're not selling you're selling your brand or your organization or your company. You know, Jeff Bezos isn't selling himself, he's selling the infrastructure that exists behind him. It's the same with Musk and, as Jobs used to do, and all those kind of people. They're selling an organization, a structure. They're selling a process. They're selling a process. It is logistics. It's process. That's all they're really selling. And less so certainly with people like Amazon. It's not about people. It's just about process.
Yeah, absolutely right. Listen, I'm very mindful of your time, and I'm so grateful for much of it. I really enjoy the chat as well. I wonder if I could just fire some quick questions at you.
Go for it. Yeah.
All right. So, thinking back to when you first started out, what would you tell yourself now that would help you?
Pay your tax.
Oops.
Don't employ people that you absolutely don't have to employ. One of my fails earlier on was about believing that the more people that you had in the organization, the more successful it is. There is absolutely no correlation between the two whatsoever. And probably the third thing was understand your pipeline. Again, another friend of mine used to say, you need to be selling for, you need to be thinking about who's going to feed you tomorrow, who's going to feed you next week, and who's going to feed you next month, and evenly splitting your time between those prospects. So you got to think about who's going to make money for you tomorrow, and who's going to make money for you next week, and who's going to make money for you next month. If there's an imbalance there, causes problems with cash flow, with profit, all of those kind of things.
The future and how you kind of plan for that as well. That's really great advice. Yeah. Who's your inspiration?
Do you know what? You sent this to me question. This is one I got stuck on, and you know what? I'm gonna pray to God that he never watches this or listens to it, right? But more and more in the last 2 or 3 years, it's been my brother. And he's a younger brother. He's 3 years younger, or just under 3 years younger than me. He's insane. He's been insanely successful. He owns a massive investment company that's invested in oil. He has a house in the Hamptons in New York. He has an apartment in Tribeca. He has a great wife, 2 lovely kids. He's just got a lot of money, and I look at him, and he has been single-mindedly focusing on a career path since I've seen him leave university. And with him, it's focus. It's really been absolute laser focus on. And I don't think he necessarily had the plan. So again, I go back to that entrepreneur thing we said right at the start. I don't think he had the plan for where he is today. He kind of knew what he wanted to do and knew what industry he was, but I don't think he had the plan. But it's just been that, laser focus of, here's what I'm going to go. I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And opportunities then presented themselves on the way through, and he would then take that opportunity. Some of them would be little sideways steps. Some of them would be forward steps, but he was forever kind of, moving forward like a chess piece, gradually, slowly, and just improving. And I look at where he's at now, and I go, that's, it's success.
And that's more about direction of travel, isn't it? Almost, it's about knowing, the broad trajectory, and then being open to the opportunities as they kind of dovetail in behind them.
And that's exactly what he's seen. He's got better and better at his job, and he's got more and more skilled and more knowledgeable about his industry. The opportunities have opened up, and he's an extremely successful guy now. So let's hope he doesn't watch this, otherwise we'll go straight to his head.
And here he is today. We've got him right over his
wait, is that where you pull a mask off and go, it's already right. I would have got away with it if you weren't for you pesky kids.
Exactly that. So tell us, where did you get the name from?
Cemoh is a phonetic pronunciation of CMO, which is Chief Marketing Officer. So, C-suite in the organization, you get CEO, CTO, COO, and CMO. And we just happened to, my business partner actually was spending way too long looking for domain names, as most entrepreneurs end up doing. And he found Cemoh. He found Cemoh as a five-letter.com, and we were like, quick, fucking register it. So we got it, and that was, We do. People do mispronounce it, but as someone else quite rightly pointed out to me, it's a great conversation piece when someone mispronounces it, because then they never forget the name. Once you correct someone how to once you pronounce, exactly, Grosjean, you know, once you teach someone how to pronounce it, they will never forget it.
Yeah, exactly that. I couldn't agree more. And yes, that eternal search for the perfect domain name, so annoying. Goes on forever. Yeah. So so any tips on that, right? So having done it a couple of times, what's your kind of, is it just
no
a slog?
There is
just a slog.
there is no easy solution, unless you're in technical and you're happy with the .io or it's a slog. It is a pain in the backside, horrible slog. What I would say is, no matter what people say to you, just get a domain that you are happy with. Because if there is a slightest element of doubt in your head, it'll come back to haunt you. And no matter what else you do with a brand, just the domain is something that you go, it just has to be right. It's like getting a pair of, correct fitting pants. If they don't fit properly, it's going to nag you all. And our last one,
you've got years of this.
yeah. And our last one was my old company was called 2 Cents. Which I love the brand, TWOCENTS, your 2 cents, that kind of thing. And we could never get 2cents.com.au because some bastard actually here in Brisbane was cyber squatting on it.
So frustrating.
And our domain was 2centsgroup.com.au, and I was like, just
every time you read out your email address, you're like,
I've got to put group on the end.
They know that I tried to get the other one. Yeah,
I know.
In there. It's so frustrating.
And then you come up with some shit excuse of why you group, and it's like, because we've got a group of companies and we hadn't.
No, exactly.
Anyway,
all the things.
Domain names are the worst thing in the world to come up with. It's horrible.
But
horrible part of setting up a company.
It really is, but I think a really key thing there is you've got to be able to look at yourself and to read it out. Probably this is the practice you do. Read it out a number of times to people and see what their reaction is and see how you feel about it. Because that's, if you're not happy with it, then you can't change it. It's going to be on your T-shirt, as it is on both of ours.
Absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant. I've listened, loved it. Thanks so much for your time. Really, really good. How can people get in touch with you, Simon, if they like?
You can Google Simon Dell and you'll pretty much find me, except there is a guy who takes pictures of mice in seriously, Google Simon Dell and find the other Simon Dell.
Are you sure?
Seriously, no, it's definitely not me. he does little miniature like dioramas with mice and pets and things like. Anyway, honestly, it's fascinating stuff. I'm like, that Simon Dell is.
While you're searching for your domain name, this could just distract you a little bit.
But I'm on Cemoh, CEMOH.com. You can find me there. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter. I pretty much respond to anything. All these, or even just Simon@Cemoh.com. That's that's easy as well.
Brilliant. And what are you going to do after this? I imagine it's a bit later in the day over there than it is here.
It's 4:40 p.m. On Wednesday. My 4.5-year-old has had his first day at school today, first day at prep.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations.
So I'm going to go home and hear all about that. Whilst the 2-year-old tries to assault me violently.
Good.
That's why I don't mind doing these. Family. I don't mind doing these things late, because then I get less
swerve some of the food.
Two small children at me, so it's a bit of peace and quiet here. So that's the rest of my day. So
fantastic. Listen, Simon, thanks so much for being part of the Growth Execution podcast. We are back next week with another entrepreneur talking about their launch story. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you then.